Hi, I'm Vaughn Palmer here at the BC Legislature with my colleague Rob Shaw, and behind us they are reorganizing the chamber. It is not in use by the members of the BC Legislature because the House is not sitting this fall, but it does get used for other things as well. And maybe you could book it for a wedding or a bar mitzvah if you wanted to. But anyway, we got lots to talk about in the BC provincial political beat this week. And I'm going to say, Rob, you have a really interesting story in the Vancouver Sun on Friday. Tell people about it.
Yeah, it's a bit of a backstory to something that happened a few months ago. No one in the province really heard about it. It's a quiet cabinet order by Premier Christy Clark and her cabinet to exempt the WHL teams in the province, there's 6 of them, from having to pay the minimum wage. And they're not currently paying their players the minimum wage. However, there is a lengthy ongoing court battle between former players in the league right now and the owners. And so it was a decision by government to get in the middle of a court challenge to exempt the league from something that it might lose in court on, and then basically not tell anyone about it until it came out in FOI documents. Vaughn, not usually how government makes policy decisions.
No, if the government, I would say, folks, if the government was really proud of what it had done here and thought they'd saved important institutions in local communities and a whole bunch of jobs, which is what they're saying now, I think Premier Christy Clark would have gone on a 6-city tour to announce that. She didn't. I think they didn't go public because they were either a little bit ashamed of what they'd done here, didn't want to draw attention to it. And worth remembering, too, that the BC government has been under pressure to increase the minimum wage in the province because we have one of the lowest in Canada. So maybe that's another reason. But draw your own conclusions about why they didn't trumpet this from the rooftops. The fact is, they didn't.
Yep.
A lot of other things. So the NDP was in the news for a couple of things this week, too.
Yeah, they had a couple policy decisions, one good, one bad, that they were dealing with. They have a continued controversy over their gender equity policy that we've talked about in the past. This time, it flares up in Columbia River Revelstoke, where there is a female disability advocate and a white man fighting for the nomination in a riding that's only supposed to go, according to the NDP's rules, to a woman candidate or someone of an equity-seeking minority group. The man, who's the mayor of the Invermere, he wins the nomination by claiming a minority status he wants to be kept secret. That only lasts for a little while, and eventually he comes out and says, well, actually, I'm bisexual, and I didn't want to talk about it, and it's confidential. The policy, which forces the mayor out of the closet against his will, which leads to tons of criticism on the NDP, yet again, just a mess left in the wake of the NDP's gender policy.
It is possible to get people in wheelchairs into the BC Legislature without a public gender equity, minority promotion, diversity policy. There are 3 current members of the BC Legislature in wheelchairs, 2 of them women, 2 of them at the cabinet table. They're all BC Liberals. So there are other ways to do this, but the NDP decides to do it in a messy fashion, and that's the way they do things.
They didn't want to talk about that policy a lot this week, but they did want to talk about a policy, a platform promise that they came up with, which was $10 a day childcare. Vaughn, this has come up in the provincial and federal level for many years now, and now it looks like the NDP want to push it through to the electorate in 2017.
Yeah, and we're starting to see what's going to be in the NDP election platform. And, they were asked how they're going to pay for it. And they said, well, the first thing they're going to do is it's $1.5 billion. So it's a lot of money to run that program. They said, well, the first thing they're going to do is put back a tax surcharge on people making more than $150,000 a year. That'll raise about $250 million, so they've got to do some other things to pay for this. They'll phase it in over time. But look, what they're saying about it is fair, and it's what happens in politics. It'll all be laid out in the election platform, fully costed, and we'll have more to say about it. Right now, what you're seeing is the NDP laying out items that will be in that platform. The full platform will be out closer to the election, and that's what happened.
What interests me about it, though, is it might be a sign, as John Horgan has told us in interviews, that they plan to go big in the 2017 election. Big promises, big spending, perhaps not a detailed breakdown of exactly how they're going to pay for it and what it might cost, but he doesn't feel the electorate necessarily needs to see that or wants to see that based on electing Justin Trudeau federally with big promises, less plans to pay for it.
So this is going to be really interesting because I think you're right. I think that the NDP was very cautious in their election platform the last few elections, and they almost won the election in several occasions, but they didn't quite. So now they're going to try to go more dramatic and well, elections are about choices. It's incredible. Here we are talking about what's going on this week. It seems like forever, but the week actually began with the firing of the Vancouver School Board, too. So
yeah, it was a bit of an abrupt announcement by the Education Minister, who just hours before the board is set to meet dismisses them before they can pass a balanced budget many months after the deadline. But government was giving them a lot of rope on that. Purely political decision.
I think it was, yeah.
Vaughn,
I mean,
you
both
sketched
sides.
out the timeline
on
of it.
both sides. Look, the Vision Vancouver trustees are sworn enemies of the BC Liberals, aligned with the NDP, and I think they knew what they were doing and stalling on this. And the government saw that the Vision Vancouver trustees were just getting ready to finally pass that balanced budget. They launched a preemptive strike. There is a Vancouver School Board now. It's one person, a provincially appointed trustee, Diane Turner. She's in for at least a year. There's still public meetings of the school board. I think what's going on there will still be controversial. And what can I say? We'll be back next week. At this rate, even though the legislature's not sitting, there's a lot of news on the provincial political debate.
We'll talk to you then.